G'day YouTube. My brother and a mate of mine, we did a dual sport ride in the Watagans mountains and Barrington tops. We covered over 600 k's. It rained on us pretty hard, a lot of slippery dirt. We had exceptional camping at Lake St Clair. Normally we wouldn't choose to go to a camping ground, but we weren't sure what was actually at Lake St Clair. We didn't plan this trip very much at all. We just sort of rode off into the bush. The basis of the trip was my brother got a Ducati Desert X and he wanted to ride off-road. So we spent the first 2 days just going out and back into the Watagans. These were some of the tracks we did, and then the third and the fourth day we went overnight. So like I mentioned, we stayed at Lake St Clair and then we went up as far as Gloucester into the Barrington tops. Unfortunately the GoPro decided that it didn't want to record any of the footage in the Barrington, which is a shame because that was some of the hardest riding we did. So most of the footage is in the Watagans State Forest and the Watagans National Park, as well as the roads around the area. Quite beautiful. I'd not ridden there much at all before. I'd ridden a little bit on my dirt bike, and not much. In Australia, any time you ride in sort of public lands or state forests and national parks, the bike needs to be registered. In Victoria, where I ride a fair bit, you can get a recreation registration, so then you can have a motocross bike, you can have a headlight, a dust light, and a brake light and a horn, and then you can ride those bikes there. But most of the places in the country you need a fully registered bike. So Honda and Yamaha for the longest time, they dual sported the WR and some of the early YZs, as well as the Honda CRFs and some of the early CRs as well. So I've got an old X, and Russell, that was on this trip with us too, he actually has a 450X as well. So we're one of the few countries in the world that you could actually register the X's in. Quite a good bike, very underloved dual sport, and same as the bike that I was on this trip, which is a CRF 450L. They've just changed their name to an RL as well. I'll just let you listen to this. My brother and I are discussing quite a slippery place down the hill. Might have to just surf the rut. Yeah, maybe. You've got to get past the fence first. That's the only problem going right. So with the larger adventure bikes, you'd see my back of my bike slides out here. You can see the handlebars come in there. It was incredibly slippery, and my brother on a big bike, so these are 200 plus kilos. They've got sort of SUV tyres, so soft rotor tyres on them, not full knobbies. So the bike move around a lot. I was quite impressed with the way my brother Warren rode. He hasn't done a giant amount of dirt biking. We certainly had bikes when we were younger. We're both, he's just coming up to 60 and I'm going to 61. So the big bikes move around a lot. It rained exceptionally hard on us here. You can see my brother actually pulls his head down into this jacket to try to minimise the water going into him. Normally we would have overtaken this car, but of course painted lines, so you can't do. There we would have overtaken. My brother's a lot more sensible than I am on the road, and so he tends not to go as berserk as I do. Beautiful views here. We use the drone as well, but the drone footage is good, but exactly how much you can put into these videos is open for interpretation. There's not much. There wasn't much improved land, which is the way they describe it in Australia for farmland. So the drone actually, while looking at trees and forest, is quite exceptional. It doesn't actually give you a good depth of field for the environment this park, sort of for. The Ducati sounds quite good with his screen. It has less buffeting than I do. I actually lost my little windsock off my GoPro this time, so it makes a lot more noise. There's a lot of lock gates and a lot of closed roads on this section of the Watagans as well. And I look out, so that looks back towards the coast. This was the second day. A little eagle in the air, but of course the GoPro has no depth of field, so couldn't actually see that. The roads we're on were quite infrequently used. It was the Anzac long weekend, so double demerit points in Australia, so they hit you with double points, double fines, to try to save people from killing themselves on the road. This was actually heading out towards Lake St Clair. So there's the Lake St Clair in Tasmania. This was not the one. It was actually quite beautiful. I just saw it on Google Earth and just thought, we'll go and have a look at this. Like I mentioned, rural roads in Australia. We've had a lot of rain in the eastern seaboard and most of the country actually. So the roads have quite beaten up, potholes over them everywhere. But still beautiful. As a dual sport bike, I quite enjoy riding the 450L. It's got enough speed. You can go a good 50 or 60 k's an hour over the speed limit in Australia if you so desired. I've been riding with a few big adventure bikes recently, and none of them have had to wait for me on either the road or the dirt. I'll just let you hear the Ducati again. So I kind of feel that with these big adventure bikes, they're kind of like having a Range Rover. While it's incredibly capable off-road, there's not very many people that want to throw them down on the dirt. Fortunately on this trip, my brother had a couple of little parking speed accidents in big mud holes, and they resulted in no damage to the bike, much to his happiness. But as they get older and you get to use them a little bit more. So now we went Lake St Clair, we went through the Barrington tops and then Gloucester, and we actually rode all the way back to Swansea on this particular leg. We got to Swansea about 8 o'clock in the night, so well in the dark road. There was police here. I don't know exactly what happened. We didn't stop to talk to them, but they're investigating some person with a boat and a broken hitch, so I don't know whether he was trying to steal the boat or what, but there was 2 police. We don't have incidents with the police being in the same line of fire as other countries in the world, but just recently we've had a few policemen being attacked and with premeditated incidents. So these police came out in numbers, 2 cars, 4 police, so I don't actually know what was happening. Long weekend, people get excited, they party pretty hard, try to wave, pretend that I'm a nice person. It's quite scenic coming back across Lake St Clair. Nice roads again, not very many people. It was actually quite a nice trip. little bit of too much wind noise, I apologise for that. Beautiful look over the lake. If you enjoyed this content, give me a like, give me some feedback. It's a little bit just disjointed in its timeline, I'm sorry. Thank you, hope you enjoyed it. See you again. Bye.